Alright, let's continue. My client is being rather difficult. Ah! Okay, we're doing great. The court was now reconvened for the trial of Miss Lena Skye. Emma didn't come back. Allow me to call the next witness to the stand, the officer in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day of the crime. Witness, please state your name and occupation. Me, partner? Oh, I'm just a man, same as you, wandering the trails of civilization. What is this deal? Occasionally helping the elderly cross the intersections when needed. Yes, we get it. Oh, I know, you're a patrolman. Oh, that's the judge. As for my name, if you listen hard enough, you can hear the howling wind calling it out. To be exact, it's Jake Marshall, Your Honor. Howling wind? I've never heard Edward described that way before. Now, Mr. Marshall, let me ask you something. You were in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day the crime took place. Is this correct? According to the papers, partner. What do you mean? A desperado soul is as boundless as the desert sands. No paper can sum it up. Maybe it's best we get on with this quickly. Please share with us your testimony of the day of the crime. In plain old English. Day of the crime. My job was to keep a wary eye on that bone orchard. They say I was supposed to make rounds 3 times a day, but that ain't my style. Besides, the room's protected by 2 security systems anyway. If I remember right, I was at the street side saloon at the time it went down. I'm just an innocent traveling man, so if you're out of ammo, it's time I hit the trail. What the heck was that? I can't say particularly care for your attitude. I can't say I care for your beer, but you don't see me complaining. Wait a minute. What do you mean by 2 security systems? I mean the security cameras and the ID card reader. I reckon even a cowpoke like you knows about those. Yes, well, what about the fingerprint-activated locks on the evidence lockers? Fingerprint-activated locks? What kind of newfangled doohickeys are those? He's not being very helpful. He's not that good with machines or with following orders. Everyone's got their weaknesses, now don't they, Mr. Prosecutor? This one seems like trouble. Alright, Mr. Wright, he's all yours. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Day of the crime. Yippee-ki-yay. You little turd. I'm just gonna present the evidence now. Objection! Officer Marshall, doesn't it strike you as odd? That is, you being called in to testify like this? After all, you weren't in the security room at the time of the crime. And yet you dragged me out here. Explain yourself, partner. It's quite simple. You left a very large trail behind at the scene. Or to be exact, a handprint. Listen real good, partner. Like I said, I'm the caretaker of that crypt. I pay my respects, that is, and make my rounds about once a month. It's only natural my fingerprints would be in there. I only wish it were, officer. But you see, your fingerprints were covered in blood. It's gonna be like I had a paper cut. Witness, what's the meaning of this? Your blood-stained fingerprints were at the crime scene. The blood wiped away, however. A luminal test clearly revealed this. Well, Officer Marshall? Seems to me, there ain't a person in this room with a head on his shoulders. I take it you have an explanation then, Officer Marshall? About the blood-stained fingerprints? Very well, you may begin your testimony about your fingerprints, found at the scene of the crime. Suspicious! Like I said, it's only natural for my fingerprints to be in that evidence room. One of them just happened to be at the same time as the bloodstained handprint. The murderer touched the locker where my fingerprint was by chance. The bloodstain and the fingerprint are completely unrelated. Or did you know the murderer was wearing gloves? See? I had nothing to do with it. What the heck kind of explanation is that? The witness's explanation is valid, although there's room for doubt. Life would be fun without any doubt, partner. The defense may now cross-examine the witness. This guard's hiding something. Wait. The security footage showed that he didn't touch the locker. That's stupid. Yeah, no. Absolutely not. Where's the security footage? Where's the security footage? Oh, they're gonna say that's wrong? What? What do you mean? Okay, fine. I'll just press him, I guess. This is so stupid. He literally wasn't over there. I'm so annoyed. I'm so annoyed. Alright, maybe I have to press him first. He literally didn't touch it. That's because you... How did you put it? Pay your respects once a month? Yeah, that's right. That and one more thing. That locker happens to be mine. What? What do you mean? I mean what I said. That's the locker I used when I was a detective. The locker I still use. All that's in there now is a heap of broken dreams. I see. It'd be strange if my prints weren't all over that locker. Apparently his fingerprint data was never removed from that locker's programming. He must have been using the fingerprint lock all this time without ever knowing it. Alright, so I just have to press him first, I guess. So then, what about the bloody handprint? Wasn't mine, it's no mystery. Please explain. My locker's covered with my own fingerprints. It just so happened. The chances of that happening are 1,000,000 to 1. On the contrary, one could argue just the opposite. The chances of that not happening are 1,000,000 to 1. Get one thing straight, partner. You ain't gonna get no reward from me with a mere fingerprint. You wanna know why? Unrelated? They're as different as night and day. Kinda like cereal and cereal. One's gotta do with breakfast, while the other one's a type of murder. He's right. Although seemingly alike, they're totally different. I don't see what homonyms have to do with this. Or didn't you know murder was wearing gloves? How do you know that? I may be a loner, but I still do my job. I keep up on the reports. There was a blood stain at the scene, thought to be left by the murderer. That's right. It was found on Detective Gumshoe's locker. However, no fingerprints were detected on that handprint. Oh yeah, I think we tried that too. So that would mean the murderer wearing gloves happened to place their hand on top of Officer Marshall's fingerprint? That's the only logical conclusion. Are you starting to get the picture, partner? The picture? The seal of blood in the desert. It's just food for the buzzards. There's only one reality, and that's this. The security tape. So long as my trail isn't in there, you can't say otherwise. He didn't touch the locker. This isn't getting us anywhere, Mr. Wright. Please consider carefully where you're going to with this cross-examination. Yes, Your Honor. Now then, continue your testimony. But, what am I... He didn't touch the locker! What do you mean by that? You want to tie me to the crime, isn't that right, partner? If so, that video is the only direct evidence you have. But that video is next to useless. It's full of blind spots. Blind spots? Places you can't see. The camera's panning back and forth. The floor isn't shown. If someone was familiar with the camera's position, they could leave the room without being caught on tape.
Objection!
Shut up. We don't have time for your speculations, Mr. Wright. Well, Mr. Wright, if you should show us evidence in the video that indicates Officer Marshall was present, please do so now. Very well. Allow me to point out your mistake, Officer Marshall. Tread carefully, Mr. Wright. You might wind up being the one making the mistake. Now, let's have another look at the video. Show us this incriminating evidence of the witness, Officer Jake Marshall. Afterwards, he doesn't touch the locker. I feel like that's what it is. Bada bing. Bada boom. You ready for this? If this isn't right, I'm gonna throw a fit. You hear me? Look at the locker. Bringing our attention back to the security camera is a mistake I'm afraid you'll soon not forget, Officer Marshall. The days are short in Texas, and so are tempers. Could you sum up what you have to say in 8 words or less? Sure. Very well. You can clearly be seen in this video. Exactly 8 words, not bad, partner. The key lies in a certain locker shown in the video. That locker with the white cloth sticking out. That was a witness's, I believe. Now then, let's rewind the video a bit. Huh? That's so stupid they wouldn't let me do this earlier. Oh, the white cloth, it's gone. What's the meaning of this, Officer Marshall? When the crime took place, the white cloth wasn't there. Then it suddenly appeared. There's only one explanation. Officer Marshall, you were in the evidence room at the time of the crime. What's more, you opened your locker when the camera was turned away. Honestly, my whole point was just that there was no blood on the locker. Order! Order! It would seem that feeling. Hold your horses! Sorry, partner, but you got the wrong man. So what if my locker was open? That doesn't mean I'm the one who opened it. The murderer needed to hide something, so he opened a locker and stuck it in. It's not my fault he happened to choose mine. Why is everyone staring at me like I'm a wanted man? Because you can't open the locker. Unless it's yours. This guy isn't just playing dumb, he really doesn't know. Hate to rain on your parade, but you're the only person who can open that particular locker. Oh yeah? I call your bluff. You say I open that locker and I'll prove it. What do you... Isn't there like a thing that explains how the doors work? Okay, I gotta find it. Take that! Fingerprint sensor? We talked about this earlier today. The lockers can only be opened by the detectives they belong to. What kind of crazy talk is this? Well, Mr. Gumshoe did mention something about this. Yeah. So, Sheriff, what do you have to say? In 8 words or less. What is he? I only got 1 word for you, partner. No! What? Order, order. Witness, explain yourself. If this is a joke, it's the worst I've ever heard. I assure you this is no joke, Officer Marshall. Now then, please tell us what you were doing in the evidence room at the time of the crime. Olay, please answer the question. What is he now, a bullfighter? That's alright, Officer Marshall. I believe we can figure out the rest from here. We can? Have a look at these floor plans. I don't know what he's talking about. There's no place for someone to hide in the evidence room. Yet Officer Meekins didn't see Officer Marshall. If that's so, then where was the witness? It seems Mr. Wright has an answer. That's right, the only possible conclusion. What? Well then, let's hear it. What? I'm lost. Where was Officer Marshall at the time of the crime?
Take that!
Am I wrong? Officer Marshall was standing right here. But that's where the victim, Detective Goodman, was. Correct, unless the man wasn't Detective Goodman. I believe the victim in the video is Officer Marshall. It was you, dressed up like Detective Goodman.
Objection!
But that's preposterous. Officer Meekins witnessed the detective at the crime scene. Mama blah, blah, blah. Once he saw the man's face, he'd know for sure, wouldn't he, Mr. Wright? May I point out, though, that Officer Meekins did not know Detective Goodman? He also testified about the man's reaction when confronted. When I entered the evidence room, I asked him to show his card, sir. Yes, and how did the detective respond? He pulled a knife on me, sir. What thing was that? Something about the officer's story puzzled me. If the man had his ID card, why didn't he just show it? Yes, he would have needed it to enter the evidence room, so he must have been carrying it. The answer is simple. He couldn't show it. As you can see, Detective Goodman's picture is on his ID card. Oh, I get it. If he showed that, his cover would have been blown. Officer Meekins would have realized the man wasn't Detective Goodman. Do you have anything to say to this, Officer Marshall? You've got quite an imagination, partner. We got a term for that. It's called circumstantial evidence. Circumstantial evidence? You're gonna have to do better than that to break a detective. Unless you have hard evidence proving I dressed up as the victim. I can't say I particularly care for your cooperative disposition. I can't say I care for your beard, but you don't see me complaining. Well, Mr. Wright, do you have any evidence to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that Officer Marshall dressed up as the victim? Do I? Well, who am I kidding? I don't have anything like that. I can see the fear in your eyes, partner. Seeing you're the one who couldn't take the desert heat. Ugh, this can't be happening. It's so obvious he's the one. What can I do? It looks like your lack of experience has finally been exposed. I'll pass on to you what someone told me when I was just starting out, Mr. Wright. When you've run into a wall with no place to go, return to the basics. The basics? Why is he helping me? For me, that would be what Mia used to tell me. Phoenix, try thinking outside the box. I should look for proof that Officer Marshall was in disguise. But rather, I should look for evidence that came out about because he was in disguise. Why do you think this locker was opened in the first place? What do you mean? There's no reason for Officer Marshall to open his locker at the time of the crime. Yet he did, despite the chance it might be discovered later as it has been. Which means he didn't originally plan to open his locker. According to the defense's argument, Officer Jake Marshall dressed up as Detective Goodman at the time of the crime. Then after the crime was committed, he opened his locker for some unknown reason. The fact that a white cloth is sticking out of the locker seems to indicate that he opened it in order to put the cloth inside. So, just what exactly is on the piece of cloth? Perhaps the video is the key to all our unanswered questions. I don't have any evidence that this video is my only shot. More of the video? Very well. Let's take another look at the security tape. The witness opened the locker to put away the white cloth. Please show us why the victim had to open the locker. I'm so lost. glove. The security camera sucks. Nope. Could it have his blood on it? If that was his blood, does something to do with his blood? I'm a little bit perturbed. His blood is on there. Yeah? What's on the claw? Maybe his blood was on it. Blood? You think it was the blood? Let's try. I guess I have a few chances anyway. For some reason, you disguised yourself as Detective Goodman and entered the evidence room, though I don't know to what end yet. Yep. However, something unexpected happened. Officer Meekins barged in on you. When asked to show your ID card, you pulled a knife on him. However, Officer Meekins panicked, and the white coat you were wearing was soaked with blood. A bloody white coat. You couldn't just walk out like that, so you hid the coat in the locker. Not bad, partner. That's what I thought. Now that Officer Marshall, are you ready to tell us the truth? Looks like I underestimated y'all. I hope you're happy now, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, if you were only half as persistent then as you are today, we all wouldn't have be here now, would we? What? Officer Marshall, tell the court what you did, all of it. Alright. Seems the time has come. What? This is weird. I had to do it that day. I just couldn't stand by and let it die. I stole the detective's ID and dressed like him. I planned to take out the evidence. I wasn't expecting Officer Meekins, so I knocked him out. They managed to escape. Oh, wait. There wasn't any murder in the evidence room 515. So the supposed victim was really you. But there's one thing I still don't understand. Traces of large quantity of blood were found on the floor of the evidence room. If no one was murdered, then how could that be? Officer Meekins managed to cut his own hand. My guess is he's the donor. It was way too much blood for such a small donation. Alright, here we go. Press, press, press.
Hold it!
The evidence? When you say it, you mean... Do you even have to ask, partner? The SL9 incident. 2 years have passed since that case was closed. It was going to completely end with the transferal that day. Not if I had anything to do with it. That incident's not over. But what did you hope to accomplish by sneaking into the evidence room? When a case is closed, only the case lead's detective can look through the evidence. I wanted to have a look at it myself one more time. No matter what the cost. I don't care what anyone says, partner. That case is mine. Alright. He wasn't in charge of that decision. Why does he care so much about it? Someone he knew died. That day was my last chance. That's why I stole the detective's ID dress and planned to take out the evidence. Why did you disguise yourself as Goodman? If I didn't make it look like Goodman was carrying out the transferal, I'd be arrested for stealing evidence, which wouldn't get me anywhere. So you did it to fool the security camera and the detective's ID card. I stole the morning of the incident. So that really was why Goodman started filling out that lost item report. I returned his ID card. I left it on the floor in the prosecutor's parking lot. The ID card I found was left there by Officer Marshall. So essentially, you managed to succeed despite your lack of foresight. What do you mean, partner? I mean the fingerprint-activated lock, of course. No matter how well you disguise yourself, you can't change your fingerprints. Under normal circumstances, you wouldn't have been able to open that locker yourself. But he could, because a rubber glove just happened to get stuck in the door. That means... Whoop. I didn't mean to click that. Okay.
Hold it!
You pulled a knife on Officer Meekins and tried to drive him off? Let's just say I was a little surprised. I only planned on being in the evidence room for no more than 5 minutes. I didn't think anyone would actually come in during that short time. Officer Meekins certainly is a one-on-one million type of person, mistaking a detective for an intruder and demanding to be shown his ID. I'll have to think a little more about his raise this year. When did Edward get so much influence? Anyway, he threw at me, stuffed at me, and I ended up cutting him slightly. I'm sorry it had to turn out that way, with me knocking him out and everything. By the way, what happened to your knife? Oh, you mean this one? I don't know what to say. So you knocked Officer Meekins out and...
Hold it!
So you did your research beforehand. Those who go into the desert unprepared to live long, partner. I didn't think it would make a difference, though. Security tape is erased every 6 hours. If all had gone as planned, no footage would have been left. However, you bloodied your coat in your struggle with Officer Meekins. If someone was in the security room when I came out, the jig would have been up. I opened my locker and stashed it in there. What was Officer Meekins doing during that time? What else? He was sleeping like a baby. So you're saying it's on that day.
Hold it!
But the blood found at the scene certainly indicates a crime took place. What are you, blind? The victim shown in that tape is me, and I'm not dead yet, partner. So you stole the evidence from the locker. Actually, no, I didn't. Why not? When I opened the locker, the evidence was already gone. What? Mr. Edgeworth, where is the evidence? It's still missing, Your Honor. It's already empty. Someone else stole the evidence. Officer Marshall, may I ask you one thing? Fire away, partner. It's a free country. Just remember, I'm also free to decide whether or not to answer. Why did you do this? Stealing a detective's ID, injuring a police officer? This is no small offense. Moreover, you're an officer yourself. This will have serious consequences. It can't just be forgiven with a simple cut in salary. Not that salary cuts are ever a valid solution. Like I said, this isn't your case, this one is mine. And I'll do anything it takes to get an answer I'm satisfied with. The witness is an unusual amount of zeal. Let's hear more. Oh my goodness. Witness.
Hold it!
Why? But that case was solved 2 years ago, wasn't it? That's the reason the evidence was stored in the evidence room. Joe Dark was convicted for his crimes. One thing I can say for sure is he deserved his sentence. I remember that Joe Dark case. It involved serial murders, didn't it? I don't intend to complain about how it turned out, but there's something that still bothers me. Something went down at that trial. Something no one will talk about. What happened? I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Why is he so concerned with that incident? Maybe I should present him with what I think his real reason is. I had a feeling he'd wind up here sooner or later. Everyone involved here is related in some way to that case. Okay. Okay. Do I know why? I don't know if I know why, but we're gonna find out if I know why. Was it someone he knew? I don't know. I'm gonna present this. I don't know what's in it that's important.
Objection!
Officer Marshall, I think I understand. I think I know why you cared so much about the SL9 incident. Sounds like you've been sipping too much cactus juice, partner. I have the SL9 incident file here. The name, Marshall, is mentioned here. In a list of murder victims. Neil Marshall. You related to this man? Neil Marshall. Yeah, I'm sure you've heard the name. 2 years ago. Aww. He received the same lousy prosecutor award you got. What? A prosecutor? He must be talking about the King of Prosecutors Award. Now I remember. Prosecutor Neil Marshall. He handled the SL9 case before I did. That's right, he was killed. And the case fell into your hands. But what's his relation to you? He was my brother. Oh, he lost his head off. He was investigating the murders with Damon Gate, then Deputy Chief of Police. The group of detectives I worked under them. We were desperate to prosecute the killer. Joe Dark, my brother, fought Dark and was killed. That was the first time Dark left behind any evidence. That was all we needed. And what's the problem? He was arraigned and incarcerated. The case is finally closed, at least according to the level records. What do you mean? My brother couldn't have been killed by Joe Dark. I knew my brother better than anyone. No one could have beaten him in a fight. And that's it? That's your reason for your insane actions? There's more in my brother's death than what the records say. No matter how much you try to hide it, you can't fool me. Well, at least one thing's for certain. Now we know what happened at the police department on the day of the crime. That was the last day the SL9 case could have been reopened. Not satisfied with the resolution, Officer Marshall planned to steal the evidence. Disguising himself as Detective Goodman, he entered the evidence room. Officer Meekins confronted him, so he rendered him unconscious and fled. Yes, this mystery has finally been cleared up. No murder took place at the police department that day. And once again, I just proved the things that happen by chance never cease to amaze. At exactly the same time as the murder at the prosecutor's office, this fake murder was going on at the police department. There can't be unrelated. Chance? It's gotta be more than that. There's no way it's unrelated. So if no one was murdered at the police department on the day of the crime, that means the murder in the prosecutor's office parking lot was the real one. Which in turn means only one person could have committed the crime. Chief Prosecutor Lena Skye.
Objection!
Good job, Phoenix. But wait, a verdict wasn't reached in yesterday's trial. Which is why we examined the incident at the police department today. But there's only one reason the defendant was not convicted yesterday. There yet remained the mystery of the simultaneous murder at the police department. Seems to me this boy's got a draw on you, partner. All of the mysteries at the police department have been resolved, no doubt about it. Only our sole murder took place at the prosecutor's office. The only suspect is Lena Skye. And the testimony of one Miss Angel Starr is completely uncontestable. If you have a response, make it single word or less. No. I rest my case. But there were gaps in her testimony. Since trials reached conclusion, no room for doubt. Well done, Mr. Wright. Thanks to you, I didn't need to waste my time disproving the alleged murder at the police department. There's no doubt what I proved today is true. Apparent murder was fake, but I didn't realize that would end up proving Lena guilty. But it didn't prove her guilty. Now then, time the verdict is arrived. This court finds the defendant guilty. Objection! It's the sister. Yep. Oh, she's in the stand. Your Honor, wait! How'd she get up there? Emma? The defense is an objection. A scientific objection. Right? What do you mean, right? Mr. Wright? Are you this girl's guardian? Your Honor, in a sense. Please, Your Honor. All I'm asking for a minute of your time. Please hear me out. Mr. Edgeworth, please. I don't want any loose ends. Wait a minute, I'll give you 3. I was kind of in shock. I mean, finding out the SL9 incident referred to Joe Dark killings. Now that she mentions it. But that's when I figured it out. I mean, what Officer Marshall was trying to do that day. So I knew his fingerprint had nothing to do with the crime. That left only one thing, the other handprint. You mean the traces of blood found on Detective Gumshoe's locker. But no fingerprints were on it, right? No, but I figured out if I examined it scientifically, I'm sure to find a clue. So I ran over there and looked at it again. So you did find something. No! Huh? Sorry, I guess I'm not much of a scientific investigator after all. You're a high schooler. Is that all? Please don't be mad, I'm just a high school student. And I'm just an attorney. But Mr. Wright, Those traces of blood are the only clue we have. If we can't find something wrong with them, please, Mr. Wright, you're a professional. If anyone can save Lena, it's you. Me? Oh boy. That time's up. Now then, Mr. Wright. With regard to the incident, does any reasonable doubt remain? Yeah. It appears the defense is troubled by the other blood mark. Looking at the floor plans, a handprint was discovered around here. Is there a problem with this? Mr. Wright, I'm sorry I can't be more of a use. Still, if you can't find anything wrong with that blood mark, Lena will be... Please answer my question. We don't have all day. Yes, Your Honor. If I've ever needed to concentrate, it's now. What could be wrong with that handprint? Could there be something I'm missing? Yep. Something. I have to try. I don't know what's wrong with it other than its location. The handprint left the crime scene. Clearly shows a contradiction. Does it? The only thing that seems clear is you're grasping, Mr. Wright. You've been staring pretty intently at those floor plans. Tell me, is there a problem with them? Yes, this is strange. Take a look at the floor plan. Something is missing. Missing? You mean something hasn't been drawn on there? The blue badger! It was in the way of the locker. We'll completely change the meaning of the mark. It's the blue badger! Let us pray the defense is simply trying to buy time. Very well, Mr. Wright. With all this evidence here, there's got to be something I can use. Question is, which item? The blue badger! That's the reason it's here.
Take that!
What about that, please, Plywood? The blue badger, mascot of the police force, defender of truth, guardian of proof. Explain yourself, Mr. Wright. I'm going really fast, so I gotta go to class. Please look at the floor plans of the crime scene. The blue badger is not here. So what happens when we put him in? The locker's blocked, right? This is where he was dancing. Oh, he was blocking the locker. Well, what? That's right. So long as the blue badger is dancing here, it would be impossible to place a handprint at this spot on the locker. What? Probably impossible not to get caught. Hey! Hey! It's crazy. So that means... just exactly what does that mean? It means it can't be done. What are you saying? Blood traces were undeniably found in the locker. Don't look at me. I didn't put it there. Mr. Wright, think it through scientifically. Emma, on the day afternoon... Blah, blah, blah. Officer Meekins brought the blue badger in. After he put it down, it would be impossible to leave a handprint on the locker. That must mean this blood mark was left there before the blue badger was brought in? Just one moment. I will not allow such far-fetched balderdash in my courtroom. It may sound far-fetched, Your Honor, but it's the only possible explanation. On February 21st, in the police department's evidence room, blood was spilled not once, but twice. But how? One time was captured on this tape, taken by the security camera. Yep. Problem is the other time. Okay, bro. What are we looking for? What you looking for? That ain't what you looking for. Someone lived prior to the struggle shown on the tape. It had to have been. It had to have been Detective Goodman when he was really murdered.
Objection!
What? That's ridiculous. I refuse to accept your absurd claim. The murder portrayed in the security tape has been proven to be a fake. However, that does not explain the blood mark found on the locker.
Objection!
So then, assuming this murder you purport really happened, where did it take place? I demand you show evidence that proves when it occurred. When did the first incident occur? Summarize the defense claims that... Yeah. Uh-huh. Tell us, when did the first incident occur? Proof? Well then. Oh, probably the thing with the log. Yeah. The 77777.
Take that!
Then the killer would have entered. In order to do so, the ID card. Oh, ID card. Who is this? Officer Meekins brought the blue badger panel into the evidence room at, let's see here, 450. Ah. Miles Edgeworth. Just what have you done? I never would have figured you had the nerve, boy. I'm not accusing Edgeworth. Drop the act, witness. It doesn't take a lot of thought to figure it. It could have been me. No, I ain't getting it. I'm afraid I don't understand either. It's clear from the luminal test that blood was here. However, when the second crime took place, both Officer Meekins and Officer failed to notice the blood. That means the blood was the first crime was wiped away by the real murderer. I would have just 10 minutes to murder the victim, carry his body away, and clean up the blood. Unfortunately, that's physically impossible. Who was there before him at 420? That would mean the crime must have taken place before Mr. Edgeworth entered the evidence room. Let's look at the chart again. Who is the sevens? There's only one other card remaining. Talk about a lucky number. But wait, that doesn't make sense. How could Detective Goodman have entered the evidence room? Since there's no record of his card being used beforehand, he must have entered along with the real murderer. That's the only plausible explanation. He went in with 7. Mr. Edgeworth, look into this ASAP. Find out whose ID number is 77777. That's 1 7 too many, Your Honor. Unfortunately, I'm unable to look up the owner of that ID card, at least it's present. What? Explain yourself, son. The ID number 7777 belongs to someone with the rank of captain or higher, someone who is so-called executive officer. We don't have the authority to inquire into such a person's identity. You have to try. But that's ridiculous. I'm not finished talking, Mr. Wright. There's one situation in which we can grant the authority. If an official filed against an executive is accepted, an official charge. You're all like, aren't you? For your cover-ups, your forgeries, that's how the prosecutor's office operates. Bruh! This is crazy. I take pride in my work, Miss Officer Marshall. I would appreciate it if you would keep your slander to yourself. Slander, is it? Okay, let me ask a question. Yes. Not to you, to her, the defendant over there. You own little executive. Don't just be stupid. She's been charged with murder. Of course we've looked up her ID number, and it's not the 7s. Don't blame me, fool partner. That's not what I want to ask. All I want to know is one thing about that incident. Yes or no incident. Answer me this, Chief Prosecutor. In that trial 2 years ago, did you really only use legitimate evidence? This is crazy. Do you need the witness to repeat the question? I heard him fine, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, I was in charge of the prosecution for that trial. At the time, occasionally, we felt the powerlessness of the law. At least, I did. What? Lena. I became a prosecutor in order to suppress crime with the law. Before I realized it, we were the ones being suppressed by the law. Defendant, what are you saying? I'll ask you again, Chief Prosecutor. Did you really... Can you look me, an investigator in that crime, in the eye and say you did? Chief Prosecutor, you didn't. I don't have to, Officer Marshall. Why wouldn't you answer? Drastic crimes require drastic measures. That's just the way it is. We did what we had to in order to get the verdict he deserved. But Lena! Even if it involved forging evidence. See? That's what I'm talking about. No. No! No. No! Order! Oh my gosh. Lena's remarks caused the chaos in the courtroom. We would have to wait until the next day. That's absurd! Okay, this is like a vengeance crime for her making up evidence then, obviously. Like, that's the only explanation I have. That's crazy! That's crazy!